My name is Elena Carter, and this is not just a story about marriage. It's a story about trust, fear, and the moment I discovered what real love truly feels like. I was only 19 years old, shy and soft-spoken, when my wedding day finally arrived. The celebration was grand. Bright lights, colorful flowers, laughter, and blessings all around. Everyone seemed so happy, except me. Inside, I was trembling. People hugged me, handed me gifts, and whispered, "Tonight is special, Elena. Be ready for your husband. Be ready." How can someone be ready for something she's never experienced before? My heart felt heavy under layers of red silk and golden jewelry. On the outside, I looked like a bride, but inside, I felt like a little girl, scared, uncertain, and lost in a world that suddenly expected her to be a woman. When I finally entered my new home in Cambridge, the walls glowed with soft yellow light. The scent of roses filled the air. Candles flickered gently near the window, and white curtains danced with the wind. Everything was perfect, except my heart, which refused to calm down. I sat on the bed, still wearing my bridal dress. My hands were sweating, and my heartbeat echoed in my ears. Every second felt like an hour. I could hear the clock ticking. Then, the door opened slowly. He walked in. Aaron Blake, my husband. Tall, quiet, with tired eyes but a kind smile. For a few seconds, we just looked at each other. Then he smiled softly and said, "You must be exhausted." "Elena!" His voice wasn't sharp or commanding. It was warm, like sunlight after a storm. He came closer, but not too close. He didn't rush. He didn't say anything else, just sat down on the edge of the bed, keeping a small distance between us. "I know this day has been overwhelming," he said gently. "You don't have to pretend to be brave. Just breathe." His words made me blink away tears I didn't even realize were forming. No one had said something that simple and kind to me all day. He looked at me and added, "We're married, yes, but tonight isn't about rules or expectations. It's about trust." That sentence changed everything inside me. I didn't know love could sound like patience. For a while we just talked about our childhoods, our favorite books, our silly fears. He made me laugh, and that laugh broke the wall of fear around me. His presence didn't feel heavy. It felt safe. Then, very quietly, he reached for my hand. His touch was light, almost hesitant. "Is this okay?" he asked. I nodded slowly. It wasn't about romance anymore. It was about kindness. For the first time, I wasn't afraid of being near someone. He didn't talk much after that. He just sat beside me, letting the silence breathe between us. I could feel the warmth of his hand, the steadiness of his heartbeat, and slowly, my fear started melting into something softer. Comfort. At that moment, I realized how wrong I had been about love. Love wasn't loud or forceful. It didn't demand. It waited. When Aaron finally said goodnight, he didn't move closer. He simply smiled, covered me with a blanket, and whispered, "Sleep well. Elena, we have forever to know each other." And then he turned off the light and lay down beside me. Not touching, not asking for anything, just being there. That small act of respect touched me deeper than any words could. That night, I didn't become someone's wife. I became a woman who finally understood that real love isn't something that starts with desire. It starts with understanding. Before I closed my eyes, I turned to look at him in the dim light. His eyes were closed, his breathing calm, and for the first time in my life, I felt something beautiful. I felt safe. The first light of morning touched my face softly. For a moment, I forgot where I was. The golden curtains swayed in the quiet air, and somewhere outside, birds were singing. Then I turned my head and saw Aaron sleeping beside me. His arm rested near mine, his breathing calm and steady. Memories of last night came rushing back. His patience, his gentle words, the way he didn't rush me when I was scared. A strange feeling filled my chest. Peace. Not excitement, not fear, just peace. I lay there quietly, watching him sleep. The man who had every reason to demand my affection had instead chosen to earn it. His eyes opened slowly, catching me staring. "Good morning, Mrs. Blake," he said with a sleepy grin. I blushed instantly. "Good morning," I whispered. He sat up and ran his hand through his hair, smiling at my nervousness. "How are you feeling?" he asked softly. I hesitated, then replied with the only truth that mattered. "I feel safe." That one word made his expression change. Softer, warmer. He nodded. "That's all I ever wanted, Elena." For a few moments we just smiled at each other. There were no fancy words, no dramatic gestures, just warmth between two souls trying to understand each other. He stood up, stretched, and said, "Stay there. I'll make us some tea." I blinked in surprise. "You'll make tea?" He laughed. "I'm not completely useless, you know." The sound of his laughter filled the room, and something in my heart melted again. I watched him move around, his shirt slightly wrinkled, hair still messy from sleep. Yet he looked more perfect than anyone I had ever seen. He came back with 2 cups of tea, the aroma of cardamom filling the air. I wrapped my hands around the cup and took a slow sip. "You didn't eat much yesterday," he said. "I'll make sure you have breakfast today. A wife must eat well if she's going to keep me alive." His words made me laugh softly. He wasn't teasing to impress me. He was just being real. As we talked, I began to notice the small things. The way he listened when I spoke. The way he never interrupted. The way his eyes held mine without making me uncomfortable. That morning, something shifted quietly between us. The fear that had once lived inside me was gone. It had been replaced by a growing trust, a bond that didn't need to be forced. After breakfast, we sat by the window. The sunlight bathed the room in gold. Outside, the world was waking up. But inside, time felt slower, softer. Aaron held my hand. "Elena," he said gently, "I don't want you to think marriage means giving up who you are. I want you to chase your dreams. Laugh loudly, cry if you need to. Just be you." I stared at him, surprised by how easy it was for him to say things most people struggled to express. "You really mean that?" I asked. He smiled. "Of course. I didn't marry a doll. I married a person." That sentence hit me deeply. All my life, I had heard people talk about marriage like it was a duty. But for the first time, I realized it could be a partnership. 2 people building something, not one person giving everything. We talked for hours that morning. About his job, about my love for books, about the tiny dreams I was too shy to share with anyone before. He listened to every word like it mattered. Later, when I went to stand in front of the mirror, I saw a different reflection. The girl who had sat frozen in fear last night now looked calm and alive. My eyes were still tired, but they carried something new. Light. Aaron came up behind me, smiling in the mirror's reflection. "You look beautiful," he said softly. I laughed. "I don't even have makeup on." He shook his head. You don't need it. You're glowing. That simple compliment meant more than 1,000 fancy words. It wasn't about how I looked. It was about how he made me feel. Before he left for work that day, he said something that stayed with me forever. Elena, love isn't something we rush. It's something we grow into, day by day, and I promise, I'll never stop learning how to love you right. When the door closed behind him, I sat on the bed and touched my wedding ring. It wasn't heavy anymore. It didn't feel like a symbol of pressure or expectation. It felt like a promise of kindness, patience, and real companionship. That morning, I realized something powerful. Love doesn't begin when someone holds you. It begins when someone understands you. And in just one night and one morning, Erin had done exactly that. That evening, the sun dipped low over Cambridge, painting the sky in soft shades of gold and pink. The house was quiet, almost too quiet. I sat by the window, thinking about everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. Yesterday, I was a trembling bride, unsure of myself, and terrified of what the future might hold. But now, I felt something I'd never felt before. Peace. When Aaron returned home from work, I heard the soft click of the door. He walked in with the same calmness that had melted my fears the night before. Hi, he said, smiling as he placed a small bag on the table. I brought your favorite, chocolate cookies. I laughed softly. How do you know they're my favorite? He shrugged playfully. A husband's instinct, maybe. It wasn't just what he said. It was the way he said it. Like we'd been married for years, not hours. Like he already knew the language of my silence. We sat together on the couch, sharing cookies and quiet laughter. There were no grand gestures, no heavy words, just two people learning to breathe in the same rhythm. After a while, he turned to me and said, "Can I tell you something, Elena?" I nodded. I was nervous too. Everyone told me the first night would be perfect, but no one said how much pressure it brings. I didn't want to be another man who just takes. I wanted to be someone who gives you safety. His honesty broke me, gently. I didn't expect him to say something so raw, so human. I whispered, "You already have." He smiled softly and took my hand, intertwining his fingers with mine. Our palms fit together perfectly, as if they'd been waiting for that moment all along. We didn't rush anything that night. We just talked about our fears, our dreams, our families, and all the small pieces that made us who we were. Sometimes we laughed, sometimes we fell silent, but even in silence, I felt connected. There was no pretending, no pressure, just presence. At one point, I turned to face him, and for a long moment, neither of us spoke. Everything we wanted to say lived in that silence. Trust, comfort, and the unspoken promise of forever. He held me close, and I could feel his heartbeat, steady and sure. No grand fireworks, no perfect movie moment, just something real. That night, as I lay in his arms, I realized what love truly was. It wasn't about the first kiss, or the first night, or even the promises whispered under the stars. It was about being seen, being accepted, being safe enough to be yourself. When I finally closed my eyes, I whispered softly, "Thank you for loving me the right way." He kissed my forehead and replied, "No, Elena, thank you for trusting me." The room grew quiet again, just our hearts beating in sync, like a slow song written only for us. And in that moment, I knew the first night of our marriage wasn't just the beginning of a relationship. It was the beginning of a friendship, a partnership, and a love that would last through every sunrise and storm. Real love doesn't rush. It listens, it waits, and it grows in the quiet moments of trust.